Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Joseph Santini. He is the managing broker for Coldwell Banker in Boca Raton, Florida, where he oversees 2 offices and 300 real estate sales professionals. His office is consistently ranked as one of the top offices in the country for Anywhere Real Estate, the parent company of Coldwell Banker. Joseph is also an author and public speaker and lives in Boca Raton, Florida with his wife and 2 daughters. Joseph, welcome onto the show today. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, great to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Really good, really good. Having a great time down here in South Florida, doing what we love to do every day, which is real estate.
I love that. And, that's why you're joining me on the show today, because we're going to dive into your perspective on real estate, your perspective of being in the industry, what you've learned, from talking to brokers around the world. And you're going to share with us a little bit about what makes an awesome broker and how we can gain these skills and these characteristics that you're going to go over with us in a little bit to help us become that leader, if that's kind of the path that we are headed down. And if we already are in that leadership position, learn how we can really perfect our leadership skills and what the heck agents are looking for, in brokerages right now, which I think is so important too. But before we get started into today's topic, I would like to hear a little bit more about you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, I'm originally from Long Island, New York. And the way I got started in real estate is kind of interesting, right? So I was in business up in New York. I didn't sell real estate. I had different businesses. And what we did, me and my wife, and my kids were real little at the time, we decided to, cash everything out and head south, right? Like like a lot of people do that, right? So we said, let's go get the warm weather. And when I came down here, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, right? But what was happening at the time is I was shopping for a house, and I noticed something, that all the agents picking me up to go see houses, they were all driving beautiful cars, Mercedes, BMW. So I'm like, what are these people doing? They don't really look like they're killing themselves. I said, this is something that I have to try.
Yeah.
And that's really what I did. I sourced out, the best brokerage to get going, which happened to be Coldwell Banker, and got my license and really had a ball, because in my world, you always had to rent a space, or, business was complex. So to be able to just get your license, not have to have pay rent, I mean, this is great. So that's how I started selling, and that lasted, I guess, about eight years or so, or 9 years. And then, I made the switch over to management, which is kind of really what I did my entire life. So it was a good fit for me. And I really enjoy this part of the business.
I love that. And, that is kind of a perfect transition way to segment into our topic, which is this manager style broker, being in that role, working with agents on your team, and how to manage all of that. And you kind of laid it out perfectly. You said, to be a broker, you need to be both entrepreneurial, but also able to serve your agents in a meaningful way. And I think that that's really important when we think about leadership and how to run a brokerage and how to get agents that, you want to stay and make it valuable for them. Talk to us a little bit about how good brokers manage both, how you've maybe been able to kind of manage that entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to work hard to make money and run your business, but also being responsible, being a leader, and being, that head of a team.
Sure. And being a real estate broker running an office, there's a lot of different types of models. But I think the hardest part of the job is, you have to be good enough, businessy enough, to make money, right? But you're also responsible for a lot of independent contractors. So you have to be able to work well with them, and they have to like you, they have to believe in you, because if you're too entrepreneurial and you're not good with, working with the independent contractors, which are really our customers, right? When you're running a brokerage, the agents are our customers, right? We need them. So if you don't have that balance right, a lot of people lean one way or the other, right? And it's sometimes hard to be successful like that. You have to be able to do both. And to make it a little more difficult, you usually have a staff, right? And so that's like an employee boss relationship, right? That's much different than dealing with an independent contractor. So, I find, some of the traits that are really good with this. I mean, you have to be patient. You have to see the big picture. You can't, get into every little thing and want every little thing your way. You have to have a real spirit of partnership, because really every one of my agents is really my business partner. And that's the way I view it.
That's an awesome perspective to kind of have. I think, if brokers adapted to that and said, hey, you're not like my employee, you're not like my direct report, anything like that. You are my partner and we're in this, it's a mutual kind of relationship. I think that's a really great way of presenting that. And that's a good perspective to kind of have when you think about working with those agents. And you've talked to brokers, around the country, around the world. Is this similar? Like, I'm wondering, from a global perspective, is this kind of similar, this style and what brokers are experiencing? Is it unique to the US, or is it kind of similar to what people from across the globe experience?
That's such a great question. And, I do host the Power Brokers podcast, and I have the luxury of really speaking with people all over the world and across the country, brokers and agents as well. And I will tell you that we all have the same issues. And it really is the same wherever you go, because agents need certain things and they want a certain type of leader as their broker, right? And even though agents, they're very entrepreneurial, they really do like a leader or a structure, even though like they'll say, oh, well, I don't want a regular job and so on. And all that's probably true, but they really do enjoy some type of structure and some type of leadership. And I think that's universal. All the people I've spoken to, it's kind of the same. And whether it be in Dubai or in France or in Italy or right here, kind of the same issues.
And I think that's really great to hear, that we're all kind of in this together. And what you've been able to, learn in your group is that, hey, we are experiencing the same things. Let's find solutions and talk through it and find ways, around that. So I think that's really great. And I agree, I think real estate, our industry, is so complex. It's changing every day. There's ups and downs and new things coming up and different stuff we're having to navigate on a regular basis, that I think, having that strong constant in a leader, it sounds like what you just described there is that people, in a market that's so crazy and constantly changing, and in an industry that's constantly changing, being able to have, a solid go-to person, leading, it sounds like that's very appealing to agents. And that's something that they're looking for right now.
Yeah, and think about the life of an agent, because there's no job harder than that. Full commission, and in all kinds of markets, they wake up every day and they got to go find a customer and get deals closed. It's a really kind of stressful existence. So the more a broker can contribute to alleviating that and having that kind of support and positiveness, it's going to go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned a minute ago the balance between the two. And you said, some people lean one way, some lean the other, but where it's really special is when you can kind of do a little bit of both and you can make that balance, equal. How have you been able to do that? What is your ways that you kind of manage, running your business and wanting to focus and go grind and make money versus, spending time with your agents and making sure, they're taken care of? How have you navigated that? And what does that look like for you?
Well, at Coldwell, so we are non-competing brokers, right? So I don't sell real estate anymore. our goal, right, is to be an absolute great business partner and really to grow the business of our agents. So that's kind of what I'm doing all day long, but listen, I remember and I really empathize with the agents on their struggle every day. I think it gives me a good relationship with them because I'm always looking at it from a entrepreneurial person. Like I feel their pain. I know what it means if the deal is falling apart. Like that may be one of 300 deals in my office, but it's their only deal. And I think you have to really relate to them like that. And even though I haven't sold in quite a few years now, I never forget being in that position and how hard it was.
Yeah, and like almost relating and sympathizing with them and being able to say like, hey, I know how this feels. I know, I've been through it myself. I think that makes it really appealing to an agent to have somebody who knows, what it's like, who isn't just in the driver's seat and has had no experience, and can't even relate. I think that makes a really powerful leader and is probably a really good quality to have if you are wanting to go into brokerage ownership. Another thing you mentioned is hiring people, both staffs and agents, and how really good brokers are really good at finding those people. Talk to us a little bit about how you kind of hire your people, have your agents around. What do you look for if you're going to bring someone on?
Right. So I think that's one of the main things a really good, successful broker is able to do, right? So they're able to recruit great talent consistently, right? And at the same time, they're also able to recruit a great staff and get the most out of them because, listen, this is a busy business and there's no way to like be a one-man show. You have to have, even if you have one employee, right? You have to be able to pick the people that are going to create this wonderful, productive, positive environment so your agents really feel that and want to be here. And, as far as recruiting, really, if you want to make it in this business as a broker, whether you have one office or whether you are numerous offices, you have to be a really, really good recruiter because people move on for all types of reasons. And if you're not constantly bringing in new talent and you're not able to do that, you're not going to achieve your goals as a broker. And, a good thing to remember is when you're a broker, especially if you're like coming from sales, like a lot of people, like they're top producers and they want to be like the broker, they want to open up their own office. I think you have to realize that you have to go from salesperson to CEO, right?
Mm.
And it's a whole different mindset. And the number one thing that's different, it's not always about you and always your way. I mean, you have to take really the bigger picture, and it's more about, being of service to your agents, your customers, if you will. So I think that's one of my reasons for my success is I'm able to really put great staff in place. They make me look great. But there's an art to that, right? And it's the same thing with the agents. Can you have conversations with the agents and really communicate how you're going to help them and how they can do better? And then you'll find that the right people, make it into your brokerage and they stay. They stay with you.
Yeah, that presence I think is so important. Like you said, I'm around, I'm available, I'm talking, to my agents on a regular basis. I think that's so important, and knowing that, agents can feel that support in that because they'll be able to sense that, right? I mean, the agents coming into the market now, into our industry now, are so smart, and they have so many options, right? So if they're with a leader who they know is around, who they know is going to give them time and attention, who isn't just focused on that sell, that entrepreneurial, mindset, and really cares and is invested in them, I think is really great. And finding those good people too. Do you have a secret method, or what do you look for when you are recruiting or attracting agents? Is there kind of a few, things that really stand out to you when you're looking to bring these people on, or kind of how do you handle the recruiting and hiring of your people?
Yeah, well, recruiting is not the easiest job, right? And it's the job that never goes away. So a good a good broker, regardless of how big your operation is recruiting all the time, and we spend a good amount of our day focused on that part. And it's really calling, some of the better people in your market, and I like to target the ones that I know I'm going to help. Like, for instance, in my current situation, working for Coldwell Banker, which is one of the Anywhere brands. I know, with the full service and the amount of stuff that we give the agents to be successful, if I, go after some agents maybe that don't have as many resources at their current company, I know they're going to come here and the chances are pretty good they're going to do a lot better. So if I can get in front of them and show them, what we can do for their business and, what they have at their disposal by coming to my office, and I can convince them that they're going to make more money here, then they're going to be interested in coming. So we really target, the people who are doing very well in the marketplace, because let's face it, that's who we want in our office. And those are also the hardest people to get because everybody wants them, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing we do here at Coldwell is we earn the business of the agent every single day. And that's, it's no different than working in a hotel or somewhere else where, listen, you have to make that experience. You have to show value like every single day, or the agent can easily just move his stuff down the street. So if you look at it like that, if every interaction with your people, regardless of how busy you are, is positive and helpful and makes their business better, they're gonna stay with you. That's how we look at it.
I love that. And I think, that was kind of another really good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is the importance of mindset and attitude. And you just mentioned, having that positive experience, having that productive mindset, that productive environment for agents to really thrive and find success. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you, make attitude and what your agents are kind of going into the day with a priority, and how important that is, in creating a healthy environment.
Yeah, and like all businesses, it starts at the top, right? So if I walk into an office, right, if I don't even know who the manager is, I can tell you the personality of the manager just by feeling the temperature of that office, by talking to the staff or by talking to some of the agents, right? Because I think, people kind of go where their energy is, right? So what I try to do here in my office is I just try to make it a place we call it the culture of productivity, right? And if you have that kind of culture in your office, you're going to really attract that. So if you came in, you would see all the agents so positive, excited about their next appointment. But it's also a place you can come where maybe you had like a horrible day, like you lost a listing and your deal fell apart. You can come in here and you can kind of feel that, and you can talk to some people and kind of get right back on track. And I think it's a choice, and I think some of it is innate, some of it is in us, and some of it we work on. But I think, if you have that mindset and then you put things on in the office that facilitate that, like if you have great training, great positive guest speakers in the office, and if you put your staff in place with this mindset, and that's a choice, right? You have a choice who you're hiring. I can hire a very positive and upbeat person who people are going to want to come to the office just to see that day.
Yeah.
Or I can hire like a negative person that is putting out stuff where, oh, I don't even want to go in there. So it's very strategic in a way, and we all have choices. And I think we have to see what really affects our environment because we have a lot of control over it. And then once you get it where you want to be, you'll find you just keep attracting more and more of it. And maybe some of the people that didn't fit that mindset, they kind of find their way out the door because it's maybe too positive, like, or too bright for them. And I find that just happens by itself.
Yeah, no, I think it's so underrated. It's so important. It is something that you can feel, as soon as you step into a room, is this, what vibes am I getting, right? And I think having that attitude and going into it with people who you want to be around makes you better too, because I think that attitude can be contagious, right? And it kind of can have a trickle down effect, especially if you as the broker are coming in smiling every day. And I also love that you mentioned too, like, we know bad days happen. Like, we know deals fall through. We know stuff doesn't always go as we wanted or as we had planned, but that's okay too. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be a bad thing. We can come together. You're in a supportive environment where we can debrief, find out what went wrong, and find out how to get it back on track again. And I think having that space, is really important too, because it's not always, rainbows and flowers and butterflies, even though we might want it to be.
Well, that's 100% accurate. And, it's a tough business. And, having the agents have access to you. So I have a lot of agents and I have no time kind of getting to everybody. They schedule time and, I have all my agents programmed in my phone, right? So if an agent calls me, they're calling me for a reason. I want to pick up that call if I can, I don't want to let them leave a message and call them back the next day, right? So it's that kind of, would you answer the phone if your business partner was calling you, right? And that's what they are. So if that's how you act, right, you'll find that it also kind of spills over to their business. Like they start acting like that with their customers. And I find that's just an automatic effect. And, they feel value in the office when it's run like that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have a leader who you're able to get on the phone, within a quick call and they're answering and they're not putting you off till the next day, I mean, how refreshing is that? And that would make you feel like such that sense of value, like, hey, they care about me enough to stop what they're doing and help me answer my question, so I'm going to make sure I deliver that to my clients as well. I think that's really a great practice to have. What are some mistakes that you've seen brokers make when it comes to managing agents? And I'm sure there's so many, to mention, but are there some kind of common things you've seen, or what are those mistakes that we should be aware of to hopefully avoid if we're headed down the brokerage path?
Well, I see managers that just don't understand their role or that they're a business partner to the agents and the agents are really relying on them. I see that a lot sometimes maybe if the broker is selling real estate because those are two hats that are very hard to wear at the same time. So, sometimes the agents don't really get the attention or that they need. And it's time consuming. Listen, I can have an agent call me, right? And they're having the worst day possible. Now, listen, I can solve their problem in 2 seconds. I can tell them what they need to know. But that's not why they're calling me. They're calling me because they want to talk nonstop, probably for 15 minutes, get it off their chest, work it out, organize some things in their head, and kind of move on, right? So if you don't understand like what they need, you're probably not going to give them, I guess, the attention that they deserve. I mean, so many times I take phone calls like that, and I always get a big kick out of it because I say nothing at all. And then at the end of the call, they're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for helping me," and this and that. And I might have said two words. So I think that's where a lot of brokers fall. A lot of brokers, I think, try to avoid their agents, right? Like, oh my God, I'm not talking to this one, I'm not talking to that one. That's not good because you're not gonna be that valued business partner. And you got to do your part. Like the agents are putting up their part. Like we see them do a lot of stuff, whether they're spending money or time or both. As a brokerage, you got to put up stuff too. It's not like, hey, just bring me checks. Like, what are you doing for the agents? Are you paying for some of their advertising? Are you putting on great training? Have you put together that great staff? That takes time, money, and effort. And probably not every broker does that the way they should. And that's what I kind of see. And, just being professional with the agents and creating a professional environment, like not hiring every single agent in your office. So you start like maybe annoying the people that you have here already, not protecting their environment. And, little things like that I think go a long way. And the agents always know how committed you are, if you care about them and what you're doing. And if you don't care about them, they really are going to pick up on that, and they won't be with you for long, and they won't do well when they're with you.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And we touched on it a little bit ago that, they're smart these days and they're coming in knowing what they want and they're expecting, to have a manager, a broker who's going to be with them, who's going to be accessible, who's going to be positive, who's going to respond to them, in a timely manner, who's going to be invested in them and their future. And if they're not getting that, then they're going to go somewhere else that does. And we definitely don't want that. We want to keep our good agents, for as much and as long as we can by giving them what they need, as you just mentioned, that training, that help with advertising, that, easiness to answer a question. And so much that too, I find they just want to be listened to, right? Like you mentioned being on the phone and you're like, I didn't even really have to tell them anything, but they just wanted someone that will listen to them, that will let them vent. And, that's sometimes all that they're looking for too. I think, opening ourselves up and opening up our ears, I think can go a long way into what some of our agents want. And that's a great quality of being a good broker.
Yeah, and there's a lot of multitasking, and it's an art. It's an art. Your skills grow the more you work on them. I think the idea is to know, what you need to work on and work on it, because it's a job with a lot of different skills and everybody has to work on them. You're multitasking. You've got so many things coming on at you at one time. And it's all about you tackling that rather than just being how you are and take it or leave it. Like you really gotta, like the agents have to get better, brokers have to get better too. They can always do things a little better, be a better partner, that kind of thing.
I think that's so true. And that's a great note to point out is that, no one's perfect. No one has all of this nailed. No one is, the perfect broker, even though we are doing all this. I think having that self-awareness and being able to say hey, here's what I'm really good at. Here's where I can improve. Or I forgot to call them back and they called me. I need to call them back, just knowing that it's okay to work on it, knowing that you don't have to be perfect and that these are things that you can improve upon, I think is really good to know too. And hopefully that should make, the world of being a broker not as scary as maybe some feel, or if they're concerned about that. Good to know you don't have to be perfect. And these are things that you can learn by doing stuff like this.
Yeah, listen, it's a rewarding job. You have the ability to drive a lot of success with your agents, to assist them. And, so as hard as the job is, it's a funny thing because there's easier jobs. It's a very satisfying job. And, with my talks with other brokers all over the place, you can tell they really get satisfaction from it. And they really have a love for it, which is understandable because if you didn't have it, there's just too much going on. You probably won't be able to do it.
So true. That's very important as well. Having that love and passion for it keeps you going on those rough days through those tough times. And it is rewarding. I mean, seeing others grow and win while you get to grow and win, it really is such a beautiful symbiotic relationship and so rewarding. And I love that, you have seen that and that you have shared, with us today ways to do that. So I want to thank you so much, Joseph, for joining me, for sharing a little bit more about your world and your style and how you're making it all happen. And this was so great. I've enjoyed talking to you today.
Well, great. Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure. A lot of fun.
And to all of you guys listening, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next week. Talk then.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/The Real View and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.